So like Mike said, I'm going to be going over nutrition. I will say before we get going, one thing I would definitely recommend you guys get from the silver colleges, um, find a way to take these ideas and apply them into your programs. I can tell you one thing that really stood out to me when I went. Well, first of all, I didn't know what to expect when I got into my silver college. I just kind of, I'll take it all in and see what happens. I had one thing in mind that I was really trying to get was, I was like, I want to talk to Steiner. I wanted to talk about programming. But then when I got through the program, I realized there's more than programming and wrestling to just being a coach. Our job is to mold these kids and athletes and turn them into young, productive citizens and give them good skills that they can use in life outside of wrestling. So definitely take what you get here and try to apply it that way if you can. One of my mentors was Marty Hawk. Is Marty there by any chance, Mike?
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
All right. One thing that really stood out to me from when Marty did his presentation was he had a pirate flag. And he was like, dude, I take things from people all the time. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, that really takes and hits a notch there. So as I've been going through my coaching career, I've really noticed that, man, I'm stealing everything. Y'all got something that's good, I'm stealing it. So if you see something you like in these presentations and such, take it, steal it, run with it, apply it to your program and your kids. That's one thing that's really stood out to me. So watch out, Marty will steal your stuff if you got something pretty good. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and get rolling with nutrition. Now, I will say one thing with nutrition. I'm going to credit a lot of this to Clint Wattenberg. If you don't know who Clint is, Clint's a two-time All-American out of Cornell University. He ended up going and being the head nutrition, I guess you'd say dietitian nutrition for Cornell. And then he went on to be the head dietitian for the UFC and is now at Virginia Tech. To kind of give you a little background of why I chose nutrition was when I got to Cornell, I was working with their RTC program. We had kids, man, we'd get them all over, right? And we had a kid from Blair Academy. He was top 50 in the nation, pound for pound. He was top 10 in his weight class. And I don't know if anyone's from Pennsylvania or not, but we went down to some part of PA. And I just remember the guy announcing on the intercom, this is the Rose Bowl of wrestling. And I was like, what the heck is he talking about? But when we got in and started going, it really kind of stood out to me like, why? It was competitive, man. It was crazy. But we had a kid, 3-time prep national champ, pound for pound, one of the top kids in the nation, Fargo All-American, Greco All-American, all that stuff. Dude, he was getting worked left and right. And not just by like upperclassmen, but by other kids who were coming in as a gray shirt and such. And I looked at him, I was like, come on, let's go, let's kind of roll. I was looking for two things he's gonna tell me. Either one, I'm hurting, or two, I'm super tired. And he looked at me and he goes, dude, I have no energy. What do you mean you have no energy? I was like, come on, you're like a 3-time prep champ, you're all this stuff. And I was like, what'd you eat? He goes, a granola bar. That's it? What'd you eat this week to cut weight? 2 granola bars. Oh, okay, so this is looking real good. And then I realized even our college kids didn't understand the aspect of nutrition. And, we don't have to know every piece of the nutrition puzzle to know how to better get our kids. The pieces that I've put together for you guys are things as coaches that, we may overlook, and we may need to look at how to really hydrate and feed our kids properly to get them to break a barrier or ceiling that may be preventing them from going out and making a national or world team or winning a national title, placing at the state tournament, winning the state tournament. So that's kind of what I've prepared for you today. I'm going to get going through this for you. Now, I'll tell you what this is not. This is what you need to feed your kids. It's just a good plan, a good basis to really put your kids at some of these levels. I can go ahead and tell you now, some of the programs I've worked with, I've had kids who I thought they had it, they didn't. We really reinforced the aspect of food. We didn't have to worry about in practice, when you're in practice, you have 2 things you do. You can cut weight or you can wrestle and get better. We didn't really have to focus on cutting weight. First and foremost, we just focused on getting better because we had the nutrition aspect down. So I'll go and tell you, it's like this. Your car, you take care of your car. Your car's like, your body is your car. You got to have 2 things in a car. You got to have oil and gas. Your body, you need water and food. So if you're missing one of those things, it's not going to run either way in the body or the car. So you got to make sure you got to have 2 things and our kids, they're crazy about, I got to cut out water. I can't have any water. There's the oil. If you don't have any water at all, it's not going to function at all. So we have to keep our wrestlers hydrated. The second piece is that food piece. yeah, you can have all the oil in the car you need to, but if you don't have fuel to go, you're not going anywhere, or you're not going to get far. So I kind of look at the body like that, and in terms of for our athletes feel good, they look good when we compete. Um, some of the problems, our kids aren't fueling throughout the day. And if they are fueling, they're overfueling at nighttime and after practice. And so they don't understand what it is that they need for their bodies to be successful. So they don't know how to support it. That's one thing that I've noticed with kids. I've talked to other coaches, and even they would talk about, when I was wrestling, I did this. I've talked to athletes, what are you doing? I'm eating a granola bar. Quit with the granola bars, kids. Like, come on, change it up a little bit. Even with college athletes, they'll tell you the same thing. I'm cutting out crazy amount of water weight and such. So one of the first things I will start with is hydration, because it does roll to the fact of an umbrella of nutrition. First, the old school mentality, right? Excuse me. Old school, man. We cut water weight, they go hungry. I'm sure most of you have all done it. I've done it. But we got to remember that these kids are developing bodies, right? They're in developing bodies. They're not fully mature. They're growing. If you coach youth, I'm going to go and say, like, this is my piece. I don't have my kids cut weight. We don't focus on cutting weight. We focus on getting better at wrestling. And in turns, my kids are happier at the state tournament. I see kids who are like just ready to lose and go home and eat. We don't have that problem. And with young youth kids, I wouldn't really focus too much on having them cut a lot of weight. Just have them focus on getting better at wrestling. But if you teach them a nutrition piece, they will make steps and gains where later in the future you can go, hey, I need you to talk to this kid. Because let's be real, you talk to kids and it's in one year, out the other, and you're going, dude, I'm so tired of repeating myself. You can get other kids to talk to them and really push the message out you're trying to get. So for me, I've noticed retention rates have increased when we're not so much focused on cutting weight. Anyways, so this is just best practice for me. You do what you want, it's your program, but ultimately I'm going to say, I don't have them cut weight. But definitely teach them what they need to put in their bodies, signs to look for when they need to hydrate and refuel. You'd be surprised how many kids are talking about, man, I went to the bathroom and it was like dark. It was like Mountain Dew. And I'm like, well, what do you go drink water, go drink something. So make sure you guys are definitely thinking about that. You think your kids know, but sometimes they don't. So it's just one of these things you got to understand that they don't always know what they're talking about. So first off, fluids for youth, middle, high school, boys, girls, it doesn't matter. This is the old thing I've heard. Hey, man, go drink water, rehydrate. Well, what's lost during wrestling practice? What do we need to replace at some point? Well, that's an easy one. We got salts and minerals. When you're sweating, it's salt. It's some sort of mineral. Look, so you can't just look at it and go, drink water. You lose a mineral, you need to replace the mineral. One thing I definitely talk about with my kids is it's okay to drink a Gatorade. It's okay to drink a Powerade. Now, it's not okay to go drink a 64-ounce Powerade or Gatorade, but talk to them about it's okay to put things back in their bodies that they're losing. Simply having water is not enough at times. I would definitely watch how much sugar they're intaking though, but they still need some sugars. So for me and my athletes, I talk to them about, go find a 16-ounce Gatorade or Powerade. Once you drink that, go back to water. That way they are getting minerals and salts, electrolytes, all those things. And if you actually start talking with some of your youth and middle school kids, if you have those programs, you can definitely look into keeping those kids informed. And as they get to high school and college, if you are in those upper levels, you can kind of change it up a little bit. Like I know for some of my athletes, I'll talk about some packets of electrolytes that I give to my kids. So if I see that they are in a very dehydrated area because they have done something or they've had to cut more weight or they haven't said anything, I will give them one of these packets. Tell them you need to intake one of these packets, mix it with water. That way it will replenish the salts and minerals that are lost. Sometimes less is more, and keeping it simple will help. But at times you do have to, give a little bit, especially for your high school and college athletes. But again, if you have middle school youth kids, I would just teach them the basics of, look, this is what hydration looks like. For some kids, they don't understand urine levels. They don't understand what it is, what it looks like. So, we keep charts like this up in our bathrooms. We now have them in our schools. That way when kids walk into the bathroom, they know. And good thing is, like, a lot of our kids and our athletes, have started actually carrying around water, but they've realized water's not enough. So a lot of our athletes have changed it up to where, we do keep some drinks on hand for our kids to intake. So if they are pushing like a 6 or a 5, hey, water might not do it. Let's look to intake something else. Again, you can keep something simple in your own rooms, but teach your kids this. Some kids just truly don't know this. Again, this is for all your kids. This isn't just one kid you got to focus on or one group of kids, a high school or high school boy, whatever. All of them. Keep it simple. Are there any questions so far? All right.
How do you entice this smart decision? So like I have a kid who is bumper, but his first response back to me was I'm a picky eater.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Um, so how do you entice the smart decision as far as nutrition and intake goes? Because I have a tougher kid and his first response back to me was I'm a picky eater.
I'd say, well, for me, I do have one other kid like that, and I tell him, well, it's your performance. If you would like to sit at the stands in the state tournament versus partaking in it, that's up to you. And I really push that, but I also tell him like if I see this is my call as a head coach, and it's worked pretty well. If I see that you're endangering yourself and it's going to become an issue long term for you, and like in the season, I may pull you out and put another kid in. And I've taken a couple kids in some duels and I've switched them out to get my point across. And, they were kind of, well, that's not right. I'm sorry, but I have to make sure as a coach, I also protect my athletes. And when you're walking around looking like you're half dead, you're going to fall over because you're not putting what you need to in your body. It's better to ensure that I'm not going to have an injury because a kid hasn't eaten or drinking some fluids and food. I'll rather take the L there than I've got a kid in the hospital. So that's just one of those things, as a coach, I'm not saying, how do I explain this? I'm not saying you're kind of like big dogging them, but you're letting them know this is how it is. Like you got to save them from themselves sometimes. If they don't want to be a picky eater, tell them to find something they like, but just, make sure it's going to meet, you know, the standards you have to ensure that your kids are going to be safe. Um, that's kind of my viewpoint on that. Second word for you.
For high school kids.
Sorry. All right, for high school kids, what?
So for my high school kids, and I do this myself, where pick up, powdered aminos, put it in a gallon jug, and drinking that all through the day. You recommend that or no? Because you suggested like Gatorade. I'm not a Gatorade guy. But
Yeah.
I have the high kids do the aminos, and they have a gallon jug of 64 ounce, 1 scoop, and they drink that through the day. Through the day, I'm gonna push through practice instead of Gatorade.
So, whatever's going to get them hydrated is really the thing that we look for. I can tell you, like in the Cornell room, we'd walk by and if, we'd have some kids, man, are you drinking enough? We'd have like a little Powerade and all that, or Gatorade. It didn't really matter as long as they got what they needed to come back and be hydrated. There'd be times we'd have some kids that I'm drinking some sort of form of electrolytes. And in this next slide, like I'll go ahead and slide that way y'all can see it. So even if a kid doesn't want Gatorade, they don't like Powerade, or you might not be too prone to it. Pedialyte, man, it works. We use the right stuff. So for like a super hydration is what we use for our kids. Now that it's pricey, I'm not gonna lie, but we give that to our kids to ensure that they are going to be hydrated the next day. There is there's not a real this is what you have to use, but find something that's going to work for your program and your kids. I've got some kids, they take a Powerade. I've got some that have a Gatorade. I've got some that use Pedialyte. But I do give out to all my varsity kids when it's come time to go and compete, at a big tournament or such. I'll give them what we call the right stuff right here because I know it is full of it. It's very salty. So I know they're getting all their minerals and everything. I might give it to them the night before if they're good on weight. Or if I know a kid's like, Coach, I'm too close. The next morning after the weigh-in, I give them one of those, and I'm like, you have an hour before the competition. Go ahead and get these minerals back in your body, so that way I know that they are going to be in a good state. So there's not really a right answer as long as they're just hydrated and they feel good. That's the real thing. I've cut enough weight to know from my own experiences when your kidneys are hurting from enough water suppression that there's a problem. Any other questions? All right.
So I don't understand that, but I found it that, I mean, everybody's different, but I found it that it's more, I get more out of the kids and their recovery with the aminos than,
Is it mean with electrolytes? The
no, I know
aminos,
no, I get it, I know they're different, but I get more benefits from that than I do having shit in the Gatorade, that's what I'm saying. So they get.
If they're going to get more benefits, from it, then take that one. I know my kids.
technical purposes, the aminos are for sparing muscle, waist gain. It's basically so you don't lose muscle mass while you're cutting. And electrolytes are so you hydrate. Because if you give them just aminos without electrolytes, they're not gonna hydrate.
No, I get what you're saying.
So you give them aminos and what?
Well, what I'm saying is, I've come to find out that I don't need specifically to give them the electrolytes because I need to stay hydrated through the day. Because with my kids, all of them, they're all very good guns, look down the water, that's not good. All through the day, so I think I'll take that. One school, and I'm seeing that, I don't have a need. I have them brought to grab a Gatorade after practice, or something like that. And if you're cutting or whatever, then, yeah, Pedialyte, or Pedialyte, but I don't.
Right, well, the liquid IV and Pedialyte will take a break, you know. I'm saying that the Pedialyte and liquid IV would take the place of those are electrolytes. But the amino acids don't have anything to do with hydration, that's for muscle and sparing.
No, but I'm saying.
Take it all fine. Let's go.
Yeah. Hey, gentlemen, if we could continue with the presentation, Mike stepped out, I know he stepped in.
Yeah, sorry about that.
And we're all right, let's just talk after, because you're all right, they're probably eating and getting the sodium, so that's why they're staying hydrated. We're on the same page. Yeah. Please continue, sir.
Mason,
Yes,
can
sir.
I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Do you have like a kind of a cheat sheet or something that you give your kids so that they have some more specific about how much, at what time, after, you know what I'm saying? Because sometimes you say, oh, stay hydrated. That means something different to each kid.
Yeah. So what I do for my kids, like my cheat sheet that I give them, is I tell them when you start the day, I want you to go ahead and start with a 8-ounce glass of water. That way I know the first thing that's going to happen is it's going to flush everything. So that way when they start intaking water throughout the day or whatever they need to, it will go ahead and help rehydrate faster. And I normally have them within that first 30 minutes of waking up, don't eat anything, just drink a glass of water. It normally runs through everybody pretty fast. But then as throughout the day, I'm actually going to get to a slide that's going to discuss, water intake throughout the day and the week. So that way my kids do know when to back off, how much to back off on, and such. Now I'll discuss more of the amounts they will intake throughout the week on that slide. So I'll actually get to you on that one. So, which is our next slide. So everybody should be familiar, I hope you are, with Max Dean. So I had the pleasure to be able to see Max and work with Max a little bit while he was at Cornell and he went on to Penn State. This dude is the best weight cutter I've ever seen. And it's not like he's focusing on cutting weight, though. He is focusing on getting better at wrestling, but he just naturally found a way how to cut his weight off. Max would go through there and he would come in with a massive, it was over a gallon easily. And every Sunday, that's what he drank. He drank one in a day. As the week progressed and we got down to the point where it was we were looking to compete, each week or each day, it was no longer that massive gallon plus amount of water. He would decrease it by roughly 25%. In turn, he never had to take and decrease his intake of food. So he had fuel throughout his competition. And then this allowed him to stay hydrated, which moved everything through his body enough. So like our kids, after a tournament, I'll tell them, hey, if you want to go ahead and start on your gallon, start your gallon. So they'll start a gallon on Sunday. I know everyone's different in their schedule. I'm not too crazy on weekday duels just because of the descent plans and having it resets where it changes your descent calculations, all that. So my team, we typically look more towards the weekends. I focus more on wrestling throughout the week in practice than I do in a try or a duel or a quad. In turn, we'll go gallon and then they'll cut it roughly 25 And then once they hit that 75%, then they start cutting tens. By the time Friday and all that rolls around, they're still eating and they're still getting enough water to make it throughout the day. And, that's when that packet of the right stuff or a Pedialyte or Gatorade really kind of comes into play to rehydrate our kids. We have found more of our kids are actually happier. So I'll kind of gauge them throughout the week. How you feel? I feel pretty good. And I'll get some kids, I had to cut more water than other people. Okay, well, that's why we focus on you need to wrestle what you weigh versus trying to cut 3 weight classes down and then maintaining. We found our kids, they're more hydrated. I mean, they're frequent urination. So it's like, "Hey, coach, I got to go pee." Okay, well, you got a 5-minute break while we're getting water. So go ahead and do what you got to do. And it's almost the entire team all the time. So once we started implementing, how to really maintain water and cut it without losing food, our kids have done a lot better. So again, we'll start out with a gallon and they'll go down to 75%. And then they just kind of 10, 10, 10 as needed, which by the time that Friday rolls around and we're getting ready to weigh in, they've went from 100% to 75, 60, 50, 40, and they're drinking about 30% of that throughout the day, which is for them, those who are cutting weight, they're pretty much well done. They're no longer cutting body fat. They're cutting water weight out. It's been pretty successful for our kids. Does that kind of answer your question a little bit? I'll assume yes. Sorry, I'm trying to look at my screen. I can't really see you guys. But I'm gonna keep on going. So what to eat? So this is the big question I've gotten with a lot of my kids. So I'll go and tell you, I built like a manual for my kids. And I've got pieces in there I've snipped out to put in this so you guys can see it. I've asked my kids, do you know what to eat? And they're like, "Tell me." And I'm like, "All right, I want you to go home and cook you some protein or, veggies, whatever, just, my example." And they're like, "So what do I eat?" And they want to know what protein, what vegetable, what grain. They're oblivious to realizing that they have some choice in this. But I tell my kids, it's okay to eat everything you need to eat to be successful, but there's a lot of things that, go into play here. So if you've got kids bulking, there's a different plan I've got for them. For my kids that are bulking, my kids that are maintaining, I've got a different plan. My kids who are cutting weight, I have a different plan. For my girls, I have a different plan. It all just depends on who I'm working for, if that makes sense. So like I said, I got to figure out what they're doing: cutting, maintaining, bulking. I just reiterate: you got to have gas in the gas tank, you got to have oil in the car. So the first thing I talk to my kids about is portion control. Again, they're under fueling through the day and they're over fueling at nighttime. So as long as you understand that your kids, they need to have a portion control. Well, if any of you have ever had the opportunity to go overseas in some areas, if you look at their plates, they're not the same size as ours in all the time. Sometimes, like if you look at your plates, they're huge, and you're like, okay, your mind is geared to eat that whole thing. So I'll tell some, hey, portion control, buy a smaller plate. Some of my kids, they have a plate, and once they fill it up, they're good. They don't really exceed off that. Once they realize that, I don't know how to gauge that, coach. We'll do like a scoop in your hand of protein or do a scoop of this. We try to just teach them ways that works for each kid that we know they're still not going to go and overdo it. Portion control is real big. Our heavyweights, obviously if they've got 30 pounds to play with, like enjoy, have fun. Now obviously our 144 is probably going to be giving them the middle finger later when we see them. But we address that later. But that portion control, it's going to play a big play into weight management. So we know our kids aren't going to overdo it, but they've got enough on their stomach and they're good. It also is going to have that balanced nutrition. Typically, I tell my kids, eat the rainbow, eat all the colors that you want to. Just make sure that you're really focusing more on the veggie side. And I'll get to that in just a moment as well. Nutrient-rich foods. We have some kids who believe they're on a carnivore diet at all times. They need to have something else. They need to have fibers. They need to have the vitamins and minerals and such, because it's going to help move out some things that they don't need. So don't let your kids neglect the salad. Don't let them just live off a carnivore diet. Make them eat something green. They might not like it. They may cuss you secretly under the breath, but that's fine. Make them eat something green. Talk to them about it. Make sure that they know. You've got reading food labels. That's going to be a big one. that kids don't understand. I've seen kids who they read the food label and they say fat. And they're like, I'm not eating that. It's got a fat. Listen, they have to have fats. Fats are essential. So teach them, and again, this isn't like a lesson you got to go in and talk to your kids for an hour about. This is, hey, here's what this means. This is what this means. If you're eating this, just know this is what the intake is. Like net weight. That way, hey, this is going to weigh this much. Protein, here it is. Kids are oblivious to it. They don't realize that there's labels there. So, and I'm going to get to that one in just a moment. Meal prep. You have some kids who they have no self-control. They get to the school lunch line and they go nuts. So maybe talking to them like, hey, when you go in, let's look at bringing a lunch and prepping something ahead of time that is going to be healthy and better. We have some kids, they're oblivious and they were like, I can do this. Yes, you can bring your own lunch. Shocker, right? So talking to them about prepping ahead of time, especially if you know a kid is bad about eating the entire buffet at the school lunch, talk to them about, hey, prep your meals. What do you need? You need this protein, you need a carb, you need a veggie. And I'll address all that shortly as well. Serving size. This kills our kids. I walk by, I see a massive bag of chips and they're eating the whole thing in one go, typically Doritos. And I'm like, you understand that you're eating so many serving sizes. And they're like, what are you talking about? Well, kids don't realize that serving size is of 1 ounce, about 25 chips. That's 7 per container. Cookies, candy, all that. If you inform them, hey, this is what this means. This doesn't just help them in their season. When they go on to no longer wrestle one day, because let's be real, some knees are giving out, mine, maybe some shoulders and such for some of you guys in there. If you just talk to them about like there's serving size, this is how many you typically should eat, is what they're telling you. You'd be surprised what kids say. Like I've got a kid who's like, I just thought that was talking about something else. I'm like, well, you should learn to read. I teach language arts. I got you. So let's read it together. Serving size, man, is huge. Talk to them about fat. Talk to them about sodium levels, sugar. Like they're oblivious of these things. But once you actually kind of give them a quick 2-minute lesson on what it is, it kind of clicks. We've got kids who they went from carrying big jugs of Gatorade to now they carry the little ones because of the serving size on it. They're like, yeah, I realized that I was drinking for like 4 people plus. And we're like, yeah. So now you know. That's a big one for our wrestlers that really kind of took off for us. Any questions thus far up to serving size, nutrient-rich food and all that? Okay. So a healthy eating plate. We do show this to all of our kids like day one. Each year we show them this. Notice the protein in the whole grains are half the plate. The vegetables are the most, and the fruits are the smallest. That's a big key here. A lot of kids feel like protein needs to be the most. Protein does not need to be the most. Okay. Obviously, it's going to help build back, but you also need your energy, which is the whole grains. The vegetables, they're going to help kind of fill up everything and bring in some fiber and some minerals, help replace what was lost and push out the old and allow the new to come in. A lot of kids, oils, they didn't understand oils. We were like, all right, you switch out ranch. If you're in the South, people love ranch, man. All of a sudden they're thinking olive oil, vinegar, a vinaigrette, something like that. It really makes a difference in a kid's diet because now they're not feeling as sluggish, especially when they understand what it is that's taking part. We've got some kids who think that rice is the only vegetable. We'll tell them, no, the rice is the whole grain. Let's change up the vegetable. Now that we've done this, our kids are walking around. They're starting to slim up and trade off some baby fat and such that they've had, and they're starting to look more like a wrestler. I say that, but we also tell our kids there's a difference between an athlete and a participant. So we have some participants who are trying to become athletes. So I'll go and make that clear for some. Fruits. Fruits are simple sugars. A lot of kids feel like they need to eat fruits, especially, and I'll get to match day competitions on what to eat as well. Fruit spike their sugar levels, like that sugar, it spikes them up, they get high and they drop. Especially at nighttime, man. We have some kids that they talk to us, I ate a whole container of pineapple. Man, that blood sugar just went up and they're hard crashing and they feel sluggish the next day. So once we started integrating this into our kids and showing them like this is what your plate needs to look like. Now the plate doesn't need to be the size of your head, but maybe your face or a little bit bigger, and they're receptive to it. and they become more, okay, I see what you're saying. I understand why. Again, our kids feel good. Like at the state tournament, all of our kids, we asked them, how do you feel? I feel good. I'm not ready for the season to end. Sweet. They walked out, their state medal. Said, look, they looked good. They felt happy. It's good to get that feedback from them. So just, ask your kids, what are you eating? How much are you eating? It's a good thing there. Also water. When it comes to nighttime, if they do not need a boost back with some sort of recovery, we tell them, hey, look, go drink water. Like we'll avoid some sugary drinks at times. But like after a competition day, then we'll tell them like go drink a Gatorade at night. It's okay. It just kind of works for our kids. So if you do have some kids that need to decrease weight, now this is not a plan for them to follow. This is just a example. We have some kids who think they got to eat this every day. No, they don't have to eat this every day. This is just a sample. We give them a 2,000 calorie nutrition plan. Like now, we don't call the manual I give my kids. It's not a diet plan. It's a nutrition plan. So we just show them like this is some things you can eat. This is some things you can apply to your nutrition plan that you may need that's beneficial to you. And our kids, they take it and they run with it. One thing I do want to point out is, again, look down towards the bottom, you'll see a dinner of a 4-ounce steak. Remember I talked about the protein doesn't need to always be the most important there? Well, the protein's there to rebuild, but then we come back through with the baked potato, that simple carb, or not the complex carb, and then we got the broccoli and the fruit. Everything's it comes full circle. And then again, some kids, they eat and they're like, I'm still hungry. At the end, we've got a low-fat yogurt with a little bit of fruit to kind of make them feel good. This is what we use for our kids who are cutting weight, and they need that plan. Kid who's looking to maintain weight, a 3,000 calorie nutrition plan. A little bit more on the steak side. If you look at the bottom there, 6-ounce steak. Again, we're not giving them like a 16, 64. No, just enough to get what you need, feel good, be successful. Nothing's too far out there. Again, just a sample. Not all our kids, they don't have to follow this verbatim and, we got to do exactly this. No, they can change it up, do what they want. They want to do chicken, do chicken. They want fish, fish. Doesn't matter. As long as they're just getting what they need to be healthy and successful. Obviously, you got some kids who you got to get the weight. I had a kid who was 90 pounds. He came out this year, never wrestled. And I was like, here you go. He was like, you're telling me to eat? I'm telling you to go nuts. I was like, just make sure you don't eat a whole bunch of Skittles and Sour Punch straws. And he was like, oh, okay. So that kid now, and I'll tell you some other things he's taken too. He's went from 90 pounds in the last 2 months. And he's no longer just a little skinny kid. He's about 111 pounds, and it's packed on with muscle. He still runs everything, but the weight's not falling off, and that's the key to it. We need to get some weight on that kid, and the weight's not falling off. It's staying and maintaining. That's kind of what we're looking for there. Before I go on to this one, does anyone have any questions thus far?
Precision Nutrition is just a resource that does a really good job at doing very simple diagrams and like teaching you how to use your hand for like portion control. If anyone wanted like extra, and then comment for females, and then we get super or question actually. Do you have any resources on like maintaining those cravings when things feel out of control?
So for my females, I've talked with them a lot about, what is it you're doing? What are you noticing? Excuse me. A lot of my females, they'll tell me like, hey coach, like, I follow this, but there's always that one time where instead of going up, roughly a pound or two, they're like, I'm bloating 3 to 5 pounds. So one of the big things that we really push for our girls is we're pushing hydration. And we push the hydration a little bit more about a week prior to when we know that they are going to get the 3 to 5 pounds, because we know that their body's going to go ahead and retain that water. So that way, when we do get to the point of, all right, we know this is what's about to come full term, they can start shredding out water in, that kind of max Dean cycle we talked about. And that will work because we know that when the stress levels really hit, it's going to be a little bit harder for them to kind of get some weight off. So we push more of that hydration factor for them, especially and with every meal. We're like, all right, if you drink this, we want you to intake your water a little bit more. And they're like, well, that's water weight. We know it's water weight, but it's going to push it off you. But the problem is, each girl for us, we've got 6 girls, okay, higher end and 3 at the lower end. So the lower end girls are a little bit harder to get off because, they don't always have as much body fat. Whereas some of our bigger girls, they're able to shred their weight a little bit easier. With our younger girls, we definitely push that you need to eat, but intake water. Let's get the water weight off. That's the big thing for our younger girls. It's just I'm still playing with that one too, because I'm still trying to figure out when we've got a couple middle girls coming in, how are we going to better accommodate them because they're on that middle ground. So it's going to be a trial and error for this season. And so we're probably going to play with it September-ish to kind of really get a good feel for it, to kind of get 2 months out. So we know exactly where and what to do moving forward. This is the first time our school's had a girls program. So it's going to be one that's going to be interesting. Now, I will say, Scott DeGraff, I'm going to throw you out there, my man. He's a great girls coach, man. I mean, he's got 3 girls state titles there. Scott, you'd be able to speak great on this, man. I mean, you're doing some great work over there, man. I'm going to pick your brain when you get back on it. So I'm gonna get some from you on that one. I'm sorry I can't be as helpful with that question though. Does that kind of help a little bit though?
Coach, what was that resource that you said?
Precision nutrition.
Precision nutrition.
I write that down myself. Like I said, thank you, Marty Huck, for reminding me that we steal everything. So you said it was specific nutrition.
Precision.
Precision. Got you. Thank you. All right, I got you. But yeah, so I'm definitely looking at that as well. I know Wrestle Like a Girl, I think through PA, they have some resources available as well. I do refer back to that from time to time. So if you do have any females come out, I would recommend you look at that. They do talk about, what it is to expect with some nutrition aspect. They're not too into detail, but it's enough to where, if you are starting out with girls this year, it is a good way to look at, a new nutrition piece because again, male and female body in the high school room, middle school room, youth room, there are definitely going to be some different variants there. Now, post-workout, I'm very big on this. As you see here, we got a nice thing of chocolate milk. We have some kids, they hate it. I tell them to buy strawberry. So in the Cornell wrestling room, we had something called Big Red Refuel. It was about 12 grams of protein and about a 3 to 8 ounce small. It was a small bottle of chocolate milk. It was thick. One thing Clint Wattenberg had pointed out, and he had made this very well known, was that there is a necessary carb and protein that mend very well together. So kids think that after a hard workout, they're going to go in there, hey, I'm going to bust out a whole thing of, creatine or some sort of whey protein. Listen, a lot of that stuff is not backed by the FDA or exactly put in all that stuff. But we at least know when we're getting chocolate milk or strawberry milk for our kids, you take this, recover. And we're not feeding them, gallon on gallon chocolate milk. It's just a small little thing. Even we can get the school to kind of sometimes, hey, can we buy an extra, whatever. We'll normally give it to our varsity kids or some kids we're switching out with varsity. So we're giving roughly about 20 chocolate milks out a day to some kids. Enough to where we'll even pay for it if they tell us to. But it's a good one to keep in your back pocket. It's easy for recovery. It works well, and our kids, I mean, they're coming out a hard practice, and they're like, dude, I've just used everything. So if a kid does need a quick refuel, man, it's all said and done. Here's a little chocolate milk, and they eat that crap up, man. They love it. Like, dude, I need a chocolate milk. No, you can't get 4. Put them back. You get 1. So if you want to look into that, I've seen it work pretty well at Cornell every day after practice. It didn't matter. Our kids were always running there getting chocolate milk. Heck, I ran there and got chocolate milk. I liked it too. So again, if you got a kid who can't afford something or they want to do their own thing, let them do their own thing. That's I control what the aspects of things I can control. And while they're there with me, they get a chocolate, strawberry milk, or whatever. I just do the chocolate strawberry because they like the flavors. We got some kids, they're like, the vanilla one sucks at the school. So I do what I can to work with them. With the post-workout recovery, there are a few things. Oh, seriously, 2 of my slides didn't show up. Post-workout recovery, there are some things that we do use. If we do have some kids who are not getting enough supplements and we know that, they are cutting weight and they're not taking what we're saying into consideration, we'll tell them like, first thing, if they're wrestling hard and they're one of these hard kids, they're going to double practice. So we tell them go ahead and try some glucosamines. It's going to help with joint pain and stiffness. So long term, they're good. Sean Charles, coach at Arizona State, I asked him one time, I was like, how have you managed to wrestle as long as you have? And he was like, glucosamine. I was like, oh, cool. Okay. He was like, it was that easy. He goes, it really kind of helped our joints. So I went with it. That was what, 2012, 2013. If we have a kid who needs to bulk up, we look at that glutamine powder. So that 90-pound kid I was talking about, we put him on the glutamine. But on top of that, he also followed that nutrition plan of bulking. Now, I will tell you, that's not something you're going to give your kids like every day. It will rebuild them. They will get a little bigger. I've got my 132. He's taking it on his own. He's a graduating senior. He wants to. He's gone from, now he walked around about 132. Mind you that. He's now up to like 157 and he's thick and he is all jacked up. And he's like, Coach, I'm going to go enter a bodybuilding contest. I'm like, you're going to embarrass yourself. Don't do that. But like, this is one of these things that some kids who might need a quicker recovery or some sort of build back, they'll take some sort of glutamine powder. We do have some kids who take dextrin. It's more of a recovery in terms of like quicker, but if we do have some kids who are just, they've been dragging, they'll typically take one of these. Oh, left off Princy there. But they'll take one of these and it'll help kind of feel better. It kicks in their system, but it's more of a competition day thing. But if they do need it because they are just that low, they do have access to their own stuff, and a lot of them will typically buy the cyclodextrin, and they do pretty well with it. Are there any questions about the post recovery before I keep going? Okay. So the night before a wrestling competition, I've heard of coaches don't eat anything, or eat just a little bit of protein, only protein. Go overload on carbs. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, look for portion control. We have some kids, our kids typically don't have an issue with the cutting weight, but some kids, they won't drink anything, or they'll limit themselves really hard. But remember, food is fuel. I'm not saying go eat the whole buffet, but I'm not saying don't eat a single piece of toast or a granola bar and say, I'm good. They need a little something. Net weight ounce, man, on a package. We have some kids, they eat a pack of chicken or tuna, and they'll say net weight ounce, 3 ounces, and they know they've got a pound and a half to play with. Dude, they'll go pretty well with that. So ensuring that they are fueling up the night before is good. But again, remember those carbs, those like noodles and rice, and everything. If they're not eating, or if they're eating too much of it, that's going to turn to sugar. That sugar will spike and it's going to fall. I would look for them, again, having meal prep, know what they're going to do, portion controlled out, protein, vegetable, complex carb with, a little bit of fruit. Nothing too crazy, nothing that's going to overdo it, which it brings you up to ultimately your competition day. You have some kids, after they weigh in, I'm going to start with this bottom paragraph before I go to the top one. They come in, they cut weight, they look terrible. Hydration, starting out with hydration. As soon as they weigh in, they get off that scale, give them something that's going to kick back in all that water and everything, so they're going to be fine. We normally have Pedialyte, or we give that the right stuff if some kids that need it. As we move through the day, and after the hydration's kicked in, some kids will take the cyclodextrin. It's not going to make them feel sluggish, doesn't make them feel too much. It's really going to kick up that stamina and recover throughout the day. Some kids, they'll take beta-alanine. If they're taking beta-alanine, it's roughly 8 weeks now. Beta-alanine's in all your foods. So it's not an illegal substance or anything. It's found in meats. You can get some of that. It's going to take about 8 weeks to get in the system if they are taking it. It's going to help prevent lactic acid buildup, which brings me to the food piece. While we're on lactic acid, fruits. A lot of kids come in to eat fruits. That fruit will turn to lactic acid after some time. So we normally don't do fruits at my programs. We do more plant-based stuff, where I try to tell them to do plant-based stuff, such as chickpeas, mushrooms, things like that. Gabe Dean, Max Dean's older brother, that dude ate and lived off of hummus. It was actually quite disgusting how much he ate, but he did it. Complex carbs, like some kids, they come in with toast and cereal and chips. Look for oats, rice, brown rice, just whole grain foods that are going to be better. We try to tell our kids, bring your more fresh food, avoid the packaged if you can. If you can't, look for things that are a little bit better than the chips and the cookies and the simple carbs. Our kids, they've done pretty well with it. We haven't had too many issues. I mean, I'm not going to say we're 100% because let's be real, we have the first year JV kids, or yeah, the varsity who's been doing it since he's 8. They live off chocolate chip cookies and Skittles. I tell them different, but you can't change some people. But we definitely try to teach them of what it is that they need to be having a competition day. A big piece of the competition day, we tell them, write it down. How did you do today? What did you eat? That way they can replicate it at the next event. We had one kid, he ate the same thing every competition day throughout the whole year. He went on, never made it to state, rising junior, placed 5th in the state tournament. He was like, I've eaten the same thing every tournament. And I was like, how do you feel? He's like, I like it, but I'm so tired of it. And he's like, but I do good with it. So have a plan. Post competition, find a way to refuel them, put proteins in them, put the carbs back in them, put the fiber in them. We have some kids, they'll go and again, they overload at nighttime. So after a tournament, we'll kind of build them something up or take them somewhere. I'll tell them, I need to see a salad or something. Like, I don't care what you put on it in terms of like, your vegetable choice, but like eat something that's green and colorful, eat a fiber. And, that way we know it's going to run out them later. And again, some kids who need that, bulk or that recovery, we'll tell them, you've got your glutamine powder, aid it in recovery. And again, if we do need that cyclodextrin, we do have that as well. Any questions so far? Okay. This is just extra. We do have, so nutrition does go well with sleep. We've noticed that some of our kids who are eating well, if you watched the AJ Ferrari post interview, he was saying he's doing all the right things. He's eating right, he's lifting, he's using bamboo toilet paper, man, like that had me going. But like the sleep piece, man, we have some kids who they eat everything, but they sleep terrible. And they're like, Coach, I still feel like super full from the night prior. Okay, well, what time did you go to bed? What time did you eat? So we kind of like, all right, if you're going to bed at 10:30 and you're eating dinner at 10 o'clock, you get up at 5:30, you might not feel too great. So we've tried to correlate our sleep and nutrition together, and we've got some kids now. We have some kids who they live and die by this sleep schedule. Those kids who did well, they were the ones following everything. The kids who were going to bed at 1:30, getting up at 5, I mean, you kind of see where that correlation is. And, their nutrition typically wasn't too well as well. But that's all I've really got. Y'all got any questions?
I got one. What about iron deficiencies?
Yes, sir. What you got?
Iron deficiencies if you're.
I'm sorry. Pardon?
Iron deficiency in women and girls.
Yep. So
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So with our girls, we've noticed that some of them they're just, when they're real down, we'll go ahead and we'll ask parents like, Mom, are you anemic? Like, do you have that iron deficiency? And sometimes we get yes. We'll say, all right, do you know if your daughter has it? And well, I don't know. Or does grandma have it? We kind of ask, do we know how far back it goes? Or we'll even have some girls come up and say, hey, like I went and I tried to go give blood and they told me I'm anemic and I can't give blood. Okay, so that helps because we'll talk with our nurse and such, and we'll ask them, or in our trainers. We try to coordinate with everybody to make sure first off we're covered as coaches, but two, we don't want to give out wrong information to our kids, and we'll say, all right, Mom, Dad, this is what we found out. We've talked to the trainers, we've talked to the nurses. Is there any way that we can probably look to an iron supplement to increase that? If we know the girl is not eating enough, if we know that she's not getting enough nutrients to build that iron. So we do have some girls who they are on an iron pill because they are anemic. So that's a big piece that we have focused on with some of our girls is we try to find out, are they anemic and such. We do know that I think we've got like three, and then we've got one coming in that we do know is anemic. So we try to stay on them, like make sure you're taking your stuff, and we see the difference in it because they'll come in some days and they're just down. So definitely asking them, ahead of time, are you anemic? Do you know? Kind of asking these questions ahead is a good follow up, and then we try to get them on an iron pill. Some of the parents are like, hey, our doctor will talk to them about it, and they're on a prescribed iron pill because come to find out their iron is actually way lower than what they initially thought. But we try to tell them, those girls as well, like you need to look more iron nutrients food, more spinach, more beef and such like that, and they're receptive to it. We got one girl, she don't want to eat spinach anymore, but that's up to her.
If I can add to that conversation, we had a girl who was bruising really easy, and that's one thing, if they're bruising in wrestling, that's one thing to ask, and she got on iron, and she's competing this weekend. It was a huge, huge difference.
Any other questions?
We have one more comment.
It's like the bruising, but it's also like low energy. So like if your girl has like low energy, there's a lot of different ways of telling that some of the iron deficiency at the moment tend to surpass in her cycle. And additionally, like a lot of those macronutrients that you get in like salmon, spinach, also like have magnesium, which helps you sleep, they have tomatoes, or oils that will help aid all of the recovery that might be required by the end of the cycle.
Thank you. We've got to kind of stay on schedule. Mason, we're getting ready for the thumb vote. Everybody gets to vote whether or not you pass. Looks like you passed. Way to go.
Hey, thank y'all.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Begin.
If you do need
Great
any sort of
information.
I've got like a little manual I've built up for my kids. I've got a manual I built for my kids. If you do need access to it, you're welcome to email me at mason.patton2013@gmail, and I will send it out to you.
Great. And feel free if you want to drop any of the presentation or that other resource into the band app. That'd be great for the group.
I'll do that. Thank y'all very much. I hope
Thank
you guys
you. Have a
enjoy your
great
silver
day.
cup. See y'all.
Bye-bye. Yes.
Happy birthday, Scott.
Yes.